Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial, I will discuss about the structure and function of immunoglobulin. So let us first know what is immunoglobulin. So basically the immunoglobulins are also called antibodies that are basically antigen binding molecule present on B lymphocytes and also secreted by plasma cells. So basically the plasma cells are those activated B cells which are antigen specific and secrete immunoglobulins. Next question is, where do you find the immunoglobulins? So basically in broad sense you'll find immunoglobulins in the blood. However, if you centrifuge the blood and distinguish between the cellular fraction and the plasma fraction, what happens is that the fluid or the plasma fractions, if you allow it to clot, if you remove the clot and the aqueous portion that you get is called serum. So your antibody will be in the serum. This was first demonstrated by two scientists called Tiselius and Cabot in 1939. So they did a very good experiment. What they did is that they immunized a rabbit with ovalbumin. So in this case the ovalbumin was used as antigen, and upon injecting this ovalbumin, they after certain number of days they collected the sera. The serum is called antisera because now it contains the antibodies. So they collected the antisera, pulled them and electrophoresis. So upon the electrophoresis, what happens is that, let me tell you one thing, is that first the serum was divided into two parts. One part was electrophoresed and the blue line indicates the serum which was electrophoresed without any treatment, and another part was treated with the antigen. In this case it is ovalbumin. So because this particular fraction contained the antibodies, when you treat the serum with this particular antigen ovalbumin, the antibodies that are contained in this fraction that reacted to ovalbumin. Now if you remove ovalbumin from this fraction, what happens is that after that if you electrophorese this serum, what happens, you get a peak which is shorter than the peak generated by the serum which is untreated. Now you can see the serum in untreated condition, it generates one very dominant peak and two smaller peak, alpha and beta, and the dominant one is called the albumin peak and the peak that contained your immunoglobulin. Basically this experiment demonstrated for the first time that the antibodies or immunoglobulins existed in the gamma globulin fraction of the serum proteins. The next question is how the structure of antibody was deduced. So in order to do that, the antibody was first digested using an enzyme. So that's called papain. So they used papain to digest this immunoglobulin, and upon digestion they got three fragments of which two are identical. So this identical fragment was FAB, and the third fragment they got is FC. The name FAB comes from the fact that this fragment was responsible for antigen binding, and FC, the name comes from the fact that this portion was crystallizable in low temperature when it was stored in the freezer. And now a second different enzyme called pepsin, when you digest the immunoglobulin using pepsin, you get a big fragment of 100 kilodalton that is called FAB-2. In order to distinguish this fragment from the FAB fragment, it is called FAB-2, and another fragment that was not, the scientists were not able to recover. And what they also did is that they used beta mercaptoethanol. So this is a reducing reagent, and this actually breaks the disulfide bond, and then you got four fragments of which two are identical and heavy chains and two were identical called small chains. So this was the first set of enzymatic and chemical treatment in order to deduce the structure of antibody, and a second set of experiment was done. So when this immunoglobulin was injected into a different mouse or different rabbit in order to generate immune response against this immunoglobulin, and that antibody was recovered, and made to react with this antibody separately. What happens is that when the antibody was used to see whether it reacts with the small chain or the heavy chain or light chain, so it was clear that the immunoglobulin against particularly this antibody reacted when the immunoglobulin was generated against the FAB fragment. So the immunoglobulin reacted with both light and heavy chain. However, the immunoglobulin, when it was generated against FC region, that immunoglobulin was able to react only with the light chain, not with the heavy chain. So putting all this information together, scientists deduced the structure. So they said that immunoglobulin is actually made up of two heavy chains and two light chains. So this light chain it resides with the heavy chain in this way, and antigen binding cleft is made up of both light and heavy chains. And of course the immunoglobulin does contain disulfide bridges, and these disulfide bonds, they basically make the structure a stable one. However, this disulfide bond varies depending upon the isotype of the antibody. However, it was initially impossible to find out the sequence of the antibodies because antibodies are heterogeneous in the serum, and therefore it was impossible to perform a perfect sequencing procedure. So then the pure immunoglobulins were obtained from multiple myeloma patients, and that made the sequencing possible. So there's an important term called Bain-Jones proteins. So this is basically the light chain which was secreted by the myeloma cells in excess, and that made the thing possible that the light chain was sequenced, and followed by that the heavy chain was sequenced later on. So the light chain sequencing revealed that the heavy chain consists of a constant region and a variable region. So the constant region is of two types. It could be of kappa or lambda type, and the heavy chain sequencing revealed 5 basic varieties of heavy chains. So these individual varieties are called isotype. So that means there are 5 different isotypes of antibody. It is called IgM, and then you have isotype IgG, and then you have isotype IgA, then you have isotype IgD, and then you have isotype IgE. Now you have the idea about the diversity, which is concentrated in the variable region domain in a region called CDRs, or complementarity determining region, because this region was originally called hypervariable region in the antibody, and that was complementary to the structure of the epitope found in the antibody. So now this region is popularly called CDR, or complementarity determining region. It is said that the conformational changes may be induced by antigen binding. So when the antigen binds with this immunoglobulin, a conformational change might be induced for better fitment. Now this slide shows you the general structures of 5 different classes of antibodies. You can easily see, for example, IgG, IgD, and IgE. They all three are monomeric antibody. However, IgA is dimeric because there are 2 molecules of antibody which are joined by a J chain, and IgM is actually a pentameric antibody. So there are 5 molecules of this particular class of immunoglobulin, and they are joined by this J chain. Now if you compare the composition of the chain of 5 different isotypes of antibodies, what you basically observe is that if the heavy chain is of gamma type, the isotype is called IgG, and how many number of constant heavy Ig domains are there? There are 3, and the light chain will be always kappa or lambda type. There is no J chain because IgG is a monomeric antibody. Now come to the IgM. In this case, the heavy chain is of mu type, and how many numbers of constant heavy Ig domains are there? There are actually 4, and the light chain will be, as I said previously, either kappa or lambda type, and there is a J chain because IgM is pentameric, and then it is IgA because in this case the heavy chain is of alpha type, and there are 3 constant heavy Ig domains. So the light chain will be either kappa or lambda type, and there is one J chain because IgA is dimeric. Then there will be IgE or IgD depending upon whether the heavy chain is epsilon type or it is delta type. And if it is IgE, then there will be 4 constant heavy Ig domain. If it is IgD, there will be 3 constant heavy domain, and the light chain will be either kappa or lambda. Now if you compare the properties of different immunoglobulins, what you observe is that the IgG has a molecular weight of 150,000 Dalton. However, because IgM is pentameric, it has 900 kilodalton molecular weight, and because there are 4 constant heavy chain domains, IgE has 190,000 daltons. And then the heavy chain composition. So IgG molecule has 4 subtypes, so which are 1, 2, 3 and 4. However, IgA has 2 subtypes, and there is one type for each of IgM, IgE and IgD. Likewise, in the normal serum level, the IgG1 is found at highest concentration, followed by IgG2. Now one interesting property of these immunoglobulin is that the immunoglobulin isotype IgG, a few subtypes of IgG can actually cross the placenta, and only IgM could be present on membrane of mature B cells. It is interesting to note that only the IgG induces mast cell degranulation. Both chains contain several immunoglobulin units of about 110 amino acid residues, and within each of these 110 amino acid residues, what happens is that an intrachain disulfide bond is formed, and that is in the form of a loop of about 60 amino acids. So the immunoglobulin domains are folded into a characteristic compact structure called the immunoglobulin fold. Now we'll talk about the structure and formation of secretory IgA. IgA is an isotype of antibody which is found in our body secretions highest concentration. For example, in saliva, in milk, in breast milk. So IgA is found in highest concentration. So how this secretory IgA is produced? So from the plasma cells, what happens is that these dimeric IgA are first produced, and they are now bound with the poly Ig receptor present on the epithelial membrane of the mucosal surface, and then they are now internalized and put in the form of a vesicle, and after enzymatic cleavage a portion of the receptor is retained in the vesicle, and remaining portion in the form of a dimeric secretory IgA is secreted out. So this is the procedure by which a secretory IgA is formed. I think you are familiar with this graph now. So what happens is that if you challenge a mouse with a particular antigen, say antigen A, and then measure the serum concentration of IgM, after a few days what you will find is that there will be high titer of IgM. However, if you challenge the same mouse with the same antigen after even certain number of days, so what happens is that you get a faster and heightened response against the same antigen, and so the primary response is mostly because of IgM, and the secondary response against the same antigen to this mouse is because of IgG. So from this graph you clearly understand that every isotype of antibodies have their own function. For example, IgE. So what happens is that the IgE, when it is bound with allergen, it can cross-link with the receptor present on the basophil or mast cells, and when they are cross-linked with the mast cells, what happens is that it can induce degranulation of the mast cells or basophils, and upon this kind of induction, the mast cells or basophils can secrete various kind of inflammatory mediators like histamine and other substances that mediate allergic reactions. So basically IgE is responsible for allergic reactions. Now all these 5 isotypes of antibodies can remain in the form of either a membrane bound immunoglobulin, or they can even be secreted from the cell. So whether it will be a membrane bound or secreted, that depends upon alternative splicing. So if a hydrophilic portion is encoded in the mature mRNA, then the immunoglobulin that is generated is secreted one, and if the portion of the mRNA is, what happens is that in the case of membrane bound form, a transmembrane portion is found in case of this particular membrane bound form. That means if the transmembrane portion is present in the membrane bound form, then a membrane bound form of the immunoglobulin will be generated. So this structure ultimately show you how the structure of the immunoglobulin appears. So in the case of IgG, IgD or IgA, so what happens is that there is one heavy chain and one heavy chain here, and there is one light chain here, and there is another light chain. So this light chain and heavy chain, they make up the antigen binding site. Similarly here also they make up antigen binding site, and the portion of the heavy chain is responsible for various biological activities that we will discuss in the next slide. So this particular portion is, so this is the N-terminal domain, and here it is the C-terminal domain or the carboxy terminal domain. So this portion is called the variable light chain, and next portion is towards the carboxy terminal end, that is called the constant light chain. Similarly in the heavy chain domain, what happens is that towards the N-terminal region, this one is the variable heavy chain domain, and then you have 1, 2 and 3 constant heavy chain domain. In the same way, you have 3 constant chain domain here in the heavy chain and 1 variable domain in the constant in the heavy chain, and there is 1 variable region domain in the light chain and 1 constant region domain in the light chain. However, in the case of IgM or IgE, there are actually 1, 2, 3 and 4 constant heavy chain domain. So that is that is another difference between IgG, IgD, IgA with IgM or IgE. Now as I said, the constant heavy chain domain is responsible for various biological function. For example, opsonization. So opsonization is defined by the fact that it is the promotion of phagocytosis of antigens by macrophages and neutrophils. So what happens is that there are Fc receptors present on the cell surface which can bind with the constant region of immunoglobulin molecules, and then they promote this kind of opsonization that is characterized by initiation of a signal transduction pathway that results in the phagocytosis of the antigen and antibody complex. Another function is the activation of complement system by IgM and most IgG subclasses. So these subclasses or isotypes can activate a collection of serum glycoproteins called the complement system. Then there is ADCC or antigen dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity. In this case, the linking of antibody bound to target cells with the Fc receptors of a number of cell types, particularly natural killer cells, can direct the cytotoxic activities of the effector cell against the target cell. And finally, transcytosis. In this case, the movement of immunoglobulins like IgA, IgM, IgG across the epithelial layers is also brought about with the help of constant heavy chain domains of immunoglobulins. Now we'll discuss about the antigenic determinants on immunoglobulins. So because the antibodies are themselves glycoproteins, they can themselves function as potent immunogens to induce an antibody response. That means they can serve as antigen as well. So what happens is that the antigenic determinants are called epitopes present on the immunoglobulins here fall into three major categories, which are called isotypic, allotypic and idiotypic determinants. So these determinants are present or located in characteristic portions of the molecules. Let us first discuss the isotypes. So for example, the isotypic determinants are constant region determinants that collectively define each heavy chain class and subclass and each light chain class and subtype within a species. That means the isotypic determinants are present mostly here. Next is the allotypic determinant or called allotype. So the allotype comes because of the allelic variation of the same isotypic gene. That means that these alleles encode subtle amino acid differences called allotypic determinants that occur in some but not all members of a species. And the third one is the idiotype. So the idiotypic determinants arise from the sequence of the heavy and light chain variable regions, so the yellow portion. So that means, what is the importance of isotype? If you inject an immunoglobulin from if you take it from a different species and inject into another species, the immune response that is generated is because of isotype. Now if you inject an immunoglobulin which is from the same species, there could be still some kind of immune response generated. That is because of the allotypic determinant. So that means within same species also you can generate immune response against a particular immunoglobulin, and that is because of allotype or allotypic determinant. That's all for today. Please, if you like my videos, put a thumbs up, subscribe and comment. If you have any question, just write in the comment section. I'll get back to you. Thank you very much. Bye bye.